Hour-long criterium at Pacific Raceways this week. Cat 4-5 race with 4 of us from Gene Johnson and Launchpad Cycling. We've got a headwind coming down the flat section of the track today, and we'll be doing the escape route due to the potential of rain. Let's see how this goes. Coming up to the first corner leading into the downhill section of the course, I try to stay on the inside to make sure that I'm protected from the headwind that becomes a crosswind. Usually the inside of the pack here is a little bit slower on the descent, with competitors attacking on the right side here, so let's see what happens. Any pedaling that we do here is purely for position. I know that some riders like to pedal through the downhill. I find that if I just tuck and stop pedaling, I can usually coast all the way down the hill here and partly through the first small hill. Depending on the day, the attacks can come from the left or the right side. I noticed that during this race, they seem to come from the right side at this section of the course. This is actually where my teammate Marvin attacked last race for the race-winning finish. I usually aim for 400 to 450 watts up this hill here. We'll notice that the race gets faster and faster. I think by the end we're doing 550, 600 up this hill. And the wetter it got, the faster the race seemed to get. This is another good spot for an attack or a selection, depending on how strong you are. While some riders are recovering, you can just go and disappear for a little bit. Kind of an uneventful lap, but then it starts raining. And what I quickly discover is that descending mid-pack in the rain is terrifying, since you've got people trying to pass you while you're also trying to handle your bike. We will see that in future laps I'm much more assertive about being closer to the front of the race, so that I can lead the descent. Here we see my teammate Marvin in front of me, who took first in the last race. Try to see if he can either get a lead out or give one to someone on our team. I think we're positioned a little far back and I'm kind of gassed, so I shake my head no. On the right and the left, we see riders who have either given a lead out or contested this Preme and fallen off of the group. You do have to be very careful with how much you give on this uphill effort, and balance that with your ability to catch back onto the peloton afterwards. Kind of blocked by the raindrop here, but as we cross the finish line on the Preme lap, we see that not much of a gap has opened up. I believe that Marvin and I probably could have made a move and could have contested the Preme if we tried. This is also my first wet race. I was hoping to get some experience in before I race my A race this year, which is the Vancouver to Whistler Fondo. As you can see, drafting is absolutely miserable, with the bike in front spitting up rooster tails right into my mouth. Here we are at the start of another descent. You see me being a bit more assertive to take control of this descent as first or second wheel, so that I don't have 10 people passing me here. I'm getting more comfortable with this descent, particularly with looking further ahead at this spot, so that I can lean the bike over a little bit more gently. I will also see that there's a camber change in the road that originally banks to the right, that now banks to the left as we crest the hill at the bottom. I did make the mistake of bumping my tire pressures up before this race, which made for some pretty sketchy handling in the rain. Another lap, another descent. Here we are neutral on the right side, Since the 1, 2, 3s and Masters are on the course at the same time, they're passing us on the left. Also want to point out my friend Robin right in front of me in the red and gold Giant TCR. He led the Preme lap despite not racing for a team. And let's see how that plays out for him in the rest of the race. Kind of a funny moment on the next lap descent. We've got the 1, 2, 3 field in front of us who have slowed down for some reason. And so we're all looking at each other trying to decide if we go for this descent and try to neutralize them. And so I go for it, and everyone else comes with me down the hill. We've got an Audi rider in the 4-5 that's very cheekily on the far right here, squeezing past the 1, 2, 3 peloton to force a breakaway that is hard for us to chase him back on. Well played. No one yells neutral, so we don't neutralize the 1, 2, 3 peloton, which turns out to be a good idea because they drop us on the hill and the flat. That's coming up right here. I'm not sure why the 1, 2, 3 were so slow at this point in the race, but if I had to guess, some riders that were represented in a break decided to soft pedal to slow down the rest of the peloton and create a gap for their teammate. Despite being in the wet today, the pace was quite a bit faster than the last escape route race, potentially because we've got a bigger group today. I'm completely gassed at the top of this climb, and so let's see if anyone will come work with me to catch back up to the group. Moments later, Tyler passes me with 2 other riders. Tyler in that red Cannondale is famous for launching attacks, so I figure this should be a fairly fast group to catch a draft on, and worth the effort to try to catch up to the main peloton. And as we do this, a lap later, we catch Robin, kind of all gassed out here. We try to invite him to join us, but I think he's just trying to get some recovery in. With just over 1 lap to go, I succumb to my aerobic system and don't quite have the power to catch up with Tyler and our new friend here up the hill, and so I end up riding the last lap of the race alone. Here I see a rider ahead that I could potentially work with to catch up to Tyler, so I put down a bunch of power only to find out that he's a Masters rider. It's a bit of a difficult course today with the escape route and the rain making bike handling a bit challenging as well, so the riders are quite scattered. That's a breakaway from the 1, 2, 3s that's just past me. One thing that you're allowed to do at this race is draft a faster group that's passing you and ride in the middle of them as long as you're moving more slowly and falling back. Coming up to race end here, let's see if I've still got a bit of a sprint to carry me across the line here. One thing you want to make sure to do after a race is to stick around. Get to know your fellow racers, ask them how their race was, meet new potential teammates, maybe get some feedback on your tactics or have a quick recap of the race with them. Just all good stuff at the race, and perhaps even more important than the race itself